I'm thinking in the Middle East, you're a fair-skinned American girl, right? Like that's definitely a little different than what they're used to.
It's funny you say that, actually. I just met with somebody who I haven't seen in many, many years, probably more than 20 years, and her father was one of my instructors, and I didn't know it when I met her. And she casually dropped like, "Oh, my father was so-and-so," and I went, "Oh my God, first of all, I loved him, but you need to tell him something for me." And she's like, "What?" And I said, he pulled me aside, as well as multiple other old white men. They pulled me aside one by one and were like, "Look, you're going to have trouble. Those people in the Middle East, they're not going to want to talk to you. Those men, they're not going to want to talk to you. It's going to be hard, blah, blah, blah. You're uphill battle." Like, they really set me up for failure because their perception was no one would talk to me. And then you drop me in the Middle East, and it was like pushing people away because I could talk to women. I could go sit in a kitchen on the floor and I have photos, pick cherry stems off of cherries and help the women and the wives and the aunts and the grandmothers and everyone make dinner. Carry it into the room where all the men were sitting, playing games on the floor, drinking whiskey. And then I would go join.
Oh, you join them?
I would join the men. So I straddled both worlds, and it was incredibly successful. And so I told her to tell her father he was wrong.
Mad Dog wasn't one of those guys.
No.
Right, good.
No, Mad Dog has always been an amazing supporter.
Yeah, Jim Lawler was episode 129 in here.
Yeah.
We love Jim, even if he's still in the CIA.
No.
He says he's not.
He is. He's amazing. My kids call him Mr. Lawler.
Mr. Lawler. Oh, boy.
Did he tell you about the gold bars?
I don't think so.
Okay, I shouldn't tell his own story.
Well,
But
tell it.
he has a photo. Ask him next time you talk to him. He has a photo, and he's sitting on top of a pile of gold bars holding a cigar.
I have not heard about this.
But I told my kids about it. He has a whole story. I'll let him tell you. But I told my kids, he has this photo. I've seen it. And we went and spent Easter with them, him and his wife, Ellen, and they hid Easter eggs around the house. It was so sweet. And my kids are finding things, and they found the photo. And they were like, it's real. So he's a legend.
I'm just picturing like the Joker in front of that money pile and be like, everything burns. Just like Jim lighting the gold bar.
He looks super cool too. He's just like, yeah.
How did you know him though? Was he like one of the original instructors you had?
So he was, he had started this special series of courses that he called the scientist recruitment courses. So this is I think super interesting. And when I talk to private sector now, I tell them about this. So the US government, as well as other countries, we focus and we train on how to target certain types of individuals, right? Scientists, nuclear physicists, mathematicians. I have nothing in common with a mathematician. I hate math more than anything on the planet, right? But I am trained now in how to have a conversation with these like 20-pound brain people.
Oh, yeah.
Through him and his courses. So he had 4 courses. I took all of them. And the first time I met him, actually, he would tell you the story too, because he remembers. He reminded me. I had dislocated my wrist, and I was in a cast, and it was upside down. And like the first comment he made was about the cast and my name. And everyone always comments on my name because it's weird.
Shawnee, how are you?
Yeah. And I was like, my parents were hippies. Thanks. And he remembers that. And we just became really fast friends. He became like a mentor. And then after I got out and he retired, we've just stayed super, super close.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That dude's a sharp guy.
I love that man.
I mean, he really.
Yes.
When he was talking to me, he was like hypnotizing me.
But you can feel it.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. What did I say? I'm like, I feel like your eye me into my soul. So he just kept going.
So him and I have a thing, and I'm probably going to get hammered for this, but we talk about the metaphysics a lot, and we're starting to talk about it more in public. But he and I, years and years ago, have started talking about like how. Do you feel like when you're in a source meeting, like sometimes you can make them say things you want them to say? And I'm like, yeah. And like, so we're talking about this over the years, and it sounds stupid, but it's kind of like Jedi mind.
Oh, yeah.
Like he and I and other people can actually manipulate conversations to go exactly where we want to go and have people say what we want them to say. So
100%.
We call them metaphysics.
No, I think 100. I know for a fact he can do that.
Yes.
Because I could feel him. Like I do this.
You
for
feel
a
the
living,
energy,
and I can feel him doing it to me. I'm like, you son of a.
No,
But like even when I have Bustamante in here, like I go way back with him, and I've probably edited him more than anyone on planet. I definitely have edited him more than anyone on planet Earth, so I know every mannerism or whatever. But I can see like, oh my God, that son of a bitch. Like this is why he was good at his job because he can change the conversation, and in my case, I even know he's doing it sometimes.
But you still go with it.
And it still happens. I'm like, whatever.
Yep.
It's an amazing skill.
Yeah.
But you were saying he would teach you to talk to all these different types of people. So like you use the mathematician example because that's not something that's like in your wheelhouse.
Not fun.
So how would you go talk to Kurt Jamungle?
Do we know a mathematician?
Yeah. Kurt Jamungle is just in here. He's a mathematical physicist.
That sounds horrifying.
Genius.
I'm sure he's a brilliant
guy. I'll show you his YouTube afterwards.
So just different things. Like you have to appeal to ego a lot, right? When you're dealing with really smart people, they know they're really smart and they want to be complimented. They want their ego complimented. If you are interested in what they are saying, they're going to keep talking, right? So they would teach us even like little sayings, like ask this question. I don't know, something about a prime number. Like, do prime numbers go on forever? I don't know, things like that. And I'm like, okay, I'll write that down and keep that in my book. But I'll never forget one of the courses. I don't remember which one. They had like a panel, and they had all these, brilliant people on the panel, and they were sitting on this little stage. And somebody asked, about personalities and quirks, and how do we really get in the mind of your type of people? And I'll never forget this guy. He goes, well, if you really want to get into our mind, go watch The Big Bang Theory. It's totally accurate. Yeah. So I very proudly did my homework.
Oh, you went and watched Big Bang Theory?
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
You can talk like a nerd, walk like a nerd, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you talked to this girl, Sarah, and then I guess, because you were still so young, I guess CIA was still like, no, you're too young or whatever.
So I actually got offered a job at that
did?
time. Yes. This is like one of my biggest personal failures, if you will.
Oh.
So I got offered a job, and the recruiter who I was talking to, this woman, she was like, look, it's in D.C. You're going to need a car. And I was like, okay. I had my first car was a very, very old Mercedes diesel. It would not have done well in D.C. winters.
Mine caught on fire on the Parkway a couple years ago. Yeah.
So I went out and I bought a new Jetta wagon, black. It had heated seats. I was very proud of myself, And then about 2 or 3 weeks before I was supposed to actually move to D.C. to take this job as like a clandestine service trainee, I got a call, and she's like, I'm sorry, they've decremented the billet.
They've what?
They got rid of the job. They got rid of the billet. I don't know if it was a budget issue or what, but they were just slashing incoming people. And
it sounded like this was going to be more of a desk job, though, in D.C.
No, so it was actually a clandestine service trainee. So it was they bring people in to start the cycle of learning how to be a spy, how to be human intelligence.
Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So they just X'd it.
They
I
were
guess
like,
the budget was low.
Yeah, I don't know what it was.
What year is this?
Oh my gosh. I don't even know. This is early.
It's like 03, 04?
Yeah.
Our budget's... I mean, Dick Cheney was in office. What the fuck is this?
I don't know, but I cried for weeks.
Yeah.
Weeks. And then I ended up going to graduate school. And I thought, okay, so I told you I studied Arabic. Okay, I need to be more marketable, right? This is like, you're going to see a theme here. I constantly need to be better.
I like
smarter.
that you don't take no for an answer.
No, hell no. Never.
That's impressive.
Never.
Yeah.
One of my mottos is find a way to get to yes.
Yes.
Period.
There you go.
So I went and studied Arabic. I moved to Egypt and studied Arabic there. Yeah, by myself. Luckily bumped into a couple people I went to school with. Pure coincidence. I was like coming down the steps of the Egyptian Museum, and I was like, hey, I know them.
You just completely alone,
Yes.
not knowing anyone,
Yes.
moved to Egypt.
Yes. To study Arabic.
Good for you.
Or stupid, one of the two.
Hey, listen, can't say you're not about it.
No, I throw myself in head first.
Where'd you live in Egypt? Cairo?
Yeah, in Cairo, in a little place called Zamalek.
I mean, I've been to Cairo like once, but I don't know the neighborhoods or whatever. But it's kind of weird because there's some areas that are like very, I guess, like Western influence there, and then there's areas that are like very Egypt, and it's like they're right next to each other too.
Or Egypt, as they say.
Egypt.
Yes. I was kind of in between. So I wasn't living where all the expats live. I was living more in a normal neighborhood. It was a nice neighborhood. Zamalek's a very nice neighborhood. What's it? That famous Egyptian actor, Omar Sharif.
Oh, yeah,
lived right down the street.
Yeah.
So I thought I was like riding high.
Yeah, you're bougie.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, I bumped into these two guys I went to school with. I was living in a hostel. And they're like, hey, we just got an apartment and we have room for one more. You want to live with us? And I was like, well, I'm probably going to get beaten for being a woman living with men. But yes, I will live with you. So I lived with these two classmates, and studied Arabic.
And if I understood this correctly, this was like a supplement to your master's degree you were getting? So it's not like you were getting the master's degree in Egypt. You just went there for how long was it?
3 months.
Okay, so like a summer or something like that. Okay. So you're like buttressing up your resume. You're pissed off that the CIA said, fuck it to this job.
I'm going to be good enough for them.
You're going to be good enough.
Yes.
When does DIA come back into the picture?
So as I was getting my master's degree, some recruiters from DIA came. There was a guy named Craig, and then a wonderful, wonderful human, Sharon Hoy, who's now retired. She lives in California again. And they came and they were talking, and so let me backtrack real quick. I used to work at Disneyland. This is related because this is how I got my job at Disneyland. Is I auditioned to be a character. Okay, who doesn't want to be a princess, right?
Yeah.
They were not looking for me.
Couldn't pass as Ariel or something?
Right.
I mean, come on.
I tried, but Mulan had just come out, and they were only looking for Mulan, and I'm not. Yeah.
They're like, fuck the mermaids.
Yeah, I know. I was like, but hair? No. So anyway, I had reached out to them, and I walked up and just suddenly grew balls, and I was like, Disneyland needs me, and here's 10 reasons why. And the guy just looked at me like I was crazy, and I just started rattling off. These are all the reasons why. I don't remember anything. It just, like, in the second, just started talking. And he goes, great, you're hired. And I went, shit, that worked. And so when I met with these recruiters, I was like, full Disney. Like, well, I didn't say Disneyland. DIA needs me, and here's why. And it just started rattling off reasons why. And then Craig, the recruiter, he was like, let's go get a beer. So we went down. We were in Monterey, California. Went downtown and had a beer in a local pub. And I think he was trying to recruit me, but I was trying to recruit him, at the same time.
Yeah.
And then I applied, and Sharon, she went to my graduate school, so she was an alum. And then I just hit her up every now and then, and she would say, oh, it's still in the process, blah, blah, blah. Right. But when I got hired finally, which took like over a year, when I got hired, she was awesome. She was a huge supporter. And I spent my first Thanksgiving in D.C. with her and her family.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, just really, really a kind person.
Did they tell, when they have those first conversations with you and take you out to the bar, did they get it all somewhat personal about what their jobs had been within DIA or the things they had accomplished without revealing actually clandestine intelligence stuff?
Yeah. So Sharon was on the analysis side, and I did not want to go analysis. I did not want to sit at a desk. I wanted the human intelligence side. And the recruiter, Craig, he was a case officer. So I just wanted to hear every story that he had ever lived, as we're sitting there over the beer. And I think just personality-wise, I think he could see, like, I could talk to him. I don't know. It worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyone listening, like 10 reasons why you need me works.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty good opener. Yeah. It's like, all right, so. You have the balls to like go at your strengths right away.
Yeah.
Like,
but that was very outside of my norm. So.
But good for you.
Yeah.
So in that conversation though, did he start to go over, here's what makes us different at DIA versus CIA and what you were looking at? Like some of the stuff you explained earlier in this conversation?
No, not really. I mean, he did talk about the mission, and I think it was very important for anyone coming in to understand that it was different. It was a different mission, but I was all about it. I'm a very mission-driven person. Give me a mission, and I'm all over it. So I was good with that.
Yeah, it's an interesting time, too,
yeah.
when he's recruiting you.
Yeah.
Because, like, shit, we just went into Iraq at that point. Afghanistan had popped off. This is right after 9/11, a couple years. So it's like you're getting in there at a time where intelligence has probably never been more busy in the history of our country.
Absolutely.
Did you have any grasp of that concept?
Yeah, for sure. So my master's was counterterrorism, counterproliferation. Say that 5 times fast.
Wait, that's an actual master's?
I created it.
So wait, are you teaching yourself? What's going on here?
So my master's was international policy studies, and you could get a specialization. And it took me 2 years to convince the dean that counterterrorism and counterproliferation went together. Because at that time, if you think back, like September 11th, there were a lot of reports of Al-Qaeda they were gassing dogs, and they were playing with WMD, and there was Saddam and blah, blah, blah. And I was just super fascinated. And so what I saw was the future was they were going to go hand in hand, right? Malicious actors, terrorists, were going to start trying to use big, bad, scary things as propaganda, for attacks, whatever. So we didn't have enough classes. So I actually ended up taking a class at Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey to supplement all of the Miss Monterey Institute. Well, they've changed the name now. It's Middlebury Institute of International Studies. But to supplement those classes. And when I proved to the dean that everything fit and it made sense, right after I graduated, they created a program. So there's a program now because I was doggedly telling them this should go together.
Yeah, you were hitting it at the right time.
Yeah.
So you have every box checked in that way. And after a year, what was your name?
Sharon?
Craig and Sharon. So Sharon gets back to you and says, all right, you can have the job. And you wanted to be in the espionage side, not on the desk side.
No.
So what's day one like? Is it, you said the training happened side by side at CIA at the farm?
Yeah. You don't start out they don't just toss you into the farm. They still need to vet you to a degree. So day one, I was terrified. I remember getting off a bus and meeting, they gave us mentors. And my mentor was a horrible human being. Oh. She was terrible. Kind of haunted me throughout my career for a while. But I got off the bus and she was one of those women that like do the elevator eyes, like, I don't like you automatically kind of thing. Ugh. It was one of those. Yeah. Yeah. Her and her buddy were pretty horrible to me throughout the years. So that first day I was like, well, this is going to be fun. But they assigned me to a desk. I think, where did I start? I started in the Iraq task force. And then later was moved to the Afghan task force. So the cool thing about, and they could have put me anywhere in the world, right? Literally, like desk-wise. Huh. But I had lived in Egypt and I had studied Arabic and I had this background. And so that's why I got put there. And the cool thing was on that desk, you're supporting the people that are out on deployment. So you're still supporting the mission. When they wanted to recruit somebody, that packet would come across my desk. I would staff it, make sure everyone signed it, make sure it got, sent where it needed to get sent, things like that. So I learned a lot on the desk. However, nobody likes working at headquarters. Yeah. I mean, come on. Yeah. So I went through several trainings while I was there, like lower level human trainings, and then
human intelligence.
Yes, sorry.
Obviously, for people out there.
Obviously.
Yeah. It's got to make sure. Some people would be like, what is human? I don't know. Sound it out.
So yeah, we had different types of training, and then in I think December of 2007, I had come back from my first tour in Iraq as a human intelligence, like a collection officer.
So you got to go do one.
I got to go do one, but not as a case officer. It was like a case officer light. We called it. It was.
Can you explain that?
Yeah. How do I do it? So you go through specialized training. You learn the human intelligence recruitment cycle. You can recruit like in war zones, but there are certain types of people you can't recruit. Like if you were a case officer, I'd have to bring you in, pitch you with the case officer with me, and then that person would leave. Like we give ourselves lots of rules. Some of them are very stupid.
But you follow.
But I follow them. Yes. So I was. It's called a field collection officer, FCO. So I did that my first tour. Then I went to the farm.
Right. Okay. So I'm trying to put the timeline together in my head because you're getting recruited by Sharon and Craig in like 03, 04. You find out maybe 05. You go to the desk outside of DC, I guess, in 05, 06. Yes. And then maybe it's like a year, 18 months there. Then they give you this case officer light type mission. How long was that in Iraq?
So I spent, my first tour was 6 months in Iraq.
And where?
Mosul. Both times I was in Mosul.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I hear that's right up there with like Rome and London.
I would love to buy a summer home. If you look at a timeline, and I've seen it, but if you look at a timeline of violence in the world, but in Iraq, Mosul, both times. So I was there 06, 07, and 09. And then I was in Afghanistan 11 and 13. If you look at the like spikes in violence, both times I was there, it was like these crazy spikes.
You brought the rain down to hell.
Yeah. Mosul was very, very interesting. But yeah, so I did that FCO until January of 08 is when I went down to the farm.
But let's talk about this though, because that's a long time to be in
Yeah.
the place. And as you said, the shit was popping off there. Like,
Yes.
So you've never you had traveled the world. You had put yourself into uncomfortable situations very well.
Very.
Like, I bet a lot of people in your position hadn't done that.
I got into Syria by dancing like Shakira, just FYI.
While you were on the Mosul?
No, before I got into DIA. So yeah,
Right,
I was
back.
used to like these very weird situations.
All right, I gotta hear that story. Come on.
Well, I'm not a good dancer. I'm a wiggler. I can wiggle.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I was living in Egypt, I like redheads, I guess. Another redheaded girl and I, named Nicole, we traveled around the Middle East, and so we went Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. And when we traveled from Lebanon into Syria, like a lot of it was just kind of half-assed. Like we're just gonna wing it. I hitchhiked with Hezbollah, which really affected my security clearance.
With Hezbollah.
With Hezbollah, our bus broke down in Lebanon, in Zakhle, which is near Baalbek, which is Hezbollah controlled.
Listen, it all sounds bad. Just keep going.
So the bus broke down, and here are these two like white redhead chicks with our big backpacks, like, anyone?
Were you wearing
the keffiyeh or anything? Yeah. No, hijab? No. And then this old beat up, I wish I had a photo. This old beat up 4-door Mercedes with bullet holes in the side and in the windshield pulls over, and her and I look at each other, and I just said, "We're from Canada, eh?" There's a lot more to that story. Anyway, so yeah.
I want to hear it though. You can't just say there's a lot more to that story and then not give me the.
Well, there was this really creepy dude in the back seat, and then she put me in the middle, and so I'm sitting next to this terrorist. Anyway, they drove us to our little hostel in Baalbek, which is where these incredible ruins are. It was beautiful.
So these were nice terrorists.
They were very nice.
Yeah, that's cool. All right.
But people can be nice when you play ignorant too, right? Yeah. But there's Hezbollah flags everywhere. And when we got to the ruins, I mean, these massive, picture like Greek columns and, there's this little museum. I have pictures. There's this little museum. And it looked like it was like, if that's the wall of the ruins, it was like built out from the wall. And so we walked in, and I'll never forget. So it's this long room, and on the left-hand side were like tables with like Hezbollah keychains and Hezbollah T-shirts and Hezbollah flags. And my master's thesis was on Hezbollah. So I was like, oh, I could bring this back for my, advisor. Like, how cool is this? On the right side of the room were like computer paper, really horrible printouts of like bombs, and like it was like U.S. and Israeli atrocities. And I was like, oh shit. And then there were 3 dudes sitting here. There was like a hallway in between. There were 3 dudes sitting there. And I looked at her again. I said, "Canada, eh?" Like just a reminder. She's like, "Uh-huh." And we didn't want to back out because these dudes were like, who are you? What do you want? And so we're like, oh, and she spoke Arabic much better than me. And she's like, "Maybe look around." And they're like, "Mm-hmm." And we're like, okay. And so we walked in. The next room was, the diorama? You remember when we were kids, like those dioramas that you'd have to make like in a shoebox?
Yes.
It was like a giant diorama.
Oh my God.
They had like a cardboard tank with like a hand with like a huge rifle sticking out. Like it was stupid. But I was like, great, this is so cool. And there was one more room, and we're like, okay, we're in now. And the one guy got up and followed us. And I remember, like maybe this is my practice spy days, but this is before digital cameras. So I had like the old like point and shoot camera. I had it around my neck here. And we walked into the room, and it was, like I said, it was a very long room. And I have a picture of this. There were probably about this high, these glass cases, and each case had 3 shelves. And they were probably about this wide, right? Just these glass cases. And they lined all the way around the room. And in each case were the remains of a suicide bomber. Oh. There were mangled wedding rings and glasses and photos and all of the, like, literally, you just walked in, and when we realized what it was, like, I started shaking, like, oh my God, like the death that these people have caused, it was crazy. And there was a TV right there at the end of the room, and Hassan Nasrallah, who is the leader of Hezbollah, was, blah, 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 blah. And I just looked at her, and I took a picture quietly, because why not? We're tourists. And we bugged out of there as fast as we could.
You left.
Yeah, we were like, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Shukran. Yeah.
All right, goodbye.
Yeah.
Let's get the fuck out of here. Mm-hmm. And they just let you walk.
They just let us walk.
These were very tame terrorists, I gotta say.
Yeah. I mean, we were very sweet.
more Borat type terrorists rather than, you know.
A little bit.
Just saying.
Yeah.
All right, so that fucked up your security clearance later because you took a ride one time?
Well, it did. Well, maybe a couple other things. That was an issue, and because I was studying Hezbollah, again, you can't be an expert if you don't actually see things and learn them.
What's wrong with that?
Well, so I went to the tri-border area in South America, which is where Hezbollah is very active also. It's where Paraguay, Uruguay, and Brazil meet, where Iguazu Falls is.
What's the name of the... Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was thinking of something else.
The TBA?
No, I'm thinking of the wrong area. There's another thing down there where, like, everyone dies. What the fuck is it called, Alessi? That jungle? It's like where the
Amazon?
No, I was just there. But where North America meets South America. It starts with a
like
D.
the Darien Gap.
Yes. That's not where you're talking.
No.
This is way
we
off.
were in Iguazu Falls where the three countries meet. It's called the tri-border area.
Okay.
And
Can we pull that up,
Hezbollah
Alessi?
Hezbollah in Paraguay is very, very, very active. And I knew this. I was studying it. And again, I went and was a tourist and went to the waterfalls and then crossed the border into Paraguay. And in Ciudad del Este, there's these shopping malls. You can see it on the left. There are these shopping malls, and Hezbollah ran some of the shopping malls and some of the stores within different shopping malls. And so I was with an ex-boyfriend at the time, and we went and we're like exploring, and I was just trying to gather information. Like I wanted to be an expert, right? And so we went, and there was a camera store we went into because I like photography. It was actually one of my covers for a lot of my operational work. And so I was looking at cameras, and the guy comes up, and there's Hassan Nasrallah on the TV behind him, and I was like, cool, okay, know where we are.
We love Hassan.
Yeah, what's up? And we were talking, so I was like playing innocent and like asking about the cameras, and he goes, oh, I can give you a great deal. And I said, where do you get these? They're such a great deal. And he goes, they fall off ships going from Miami. I was like, wow, they just fall off. That's amazing.
You're like, you keep going?
Yeah. Anyway, so he invited me to Lebanon and to hang out with his family, and I was like, we're good. I don't need more friends. But those stories, obviously, like the background of the polygraph, they were like not happy.
But like your heart's in the right place on those things.
Yeah, maybe half stupid, but yeah,
it's like guys, I was practicing for you. You know what I mean? I
can talk to anybody.
That's it.
Right.
That's it. But you had cut off though because you broke down, and then they took you to Baalbek, and then you ended up having to escape this place, and it was in Lebanon. But you then. It started off, you were saying you had to dance
Syria.
Your way into Syria like Shakira.
Yeah, sorry. I told you I'd talk for 2 weeks if you let me. Like I got more stories than anyone.
Listen, that's a good thing.
So when we left Lebanon and we were crossing into Syria, we were told you could just like walk across. That was not true. You had to dance across.
Oh, you had to dance.
So they let everyone in but me. So me and my friend Nicole.
You didn't dance well enough?
Well, I don't know. But the guy, they wouldn't let us in. They were just kind of being hard asses. Like, you're American. Like, what do you, why, blah, 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 blah. And we were like playing dumb. And no, we just really want to see Syria and da-da-da. And then I think it was either on the radio or TV. I do not remember. But Shakira came on, right? And I went, oh, Shakira, Bin Luban. She's from Lebanon, like Bin Lubnan, right? And they were like, like Colombia, Lebanon, like, right, the heritage. And so I was like trying to be like, cutesy, which I am not a cutesy person. And the guy cracked a smile, and I was like, we're in. And so I just started like talking to him about music and Shakira, and then like did a little hip thing, which was probably my hips lie.
Oh,
my hips were terrible.
I'm on tonight and my hips don't lie, starting to feel it right. Oh my God, I can see the guy like, yes.
Welcome to our country. And we walked right in.
That is probably a story that not many people have.
No, and I will never tell my kids.
Okay. Well, guess what? Your kids are going to have the internet. So they'll be able to see this.
Yeah.
Guys, if you're still watching this video and you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, please take 2 seconds and go hit it right now. Thank you. All right, so we got on that tangent because we were talking about your first trip, though, to Mosul in 2007. Yes. So you touched down in Mosul for what's going to be 6 months as secondary case officer, right? You already laid some of that out. But you're getting there during a crazy fucking time, obviously.
Crazy.
But what's that like now that you're not, a tourist fucking around having a good time? You're actually in the game, dropping into a major war zone.
Yeah.
can you even be prepared for that?
No.
Yeah.
No. I've never been in the military. I don't know how they mentally prepare for it, but I was not mentally prepared for it. I knew people that had been. I had gone through all the training. I had studied as much as I could, but there's nothing like, well, first of all, I think on that flight landing, in my memory, I was the only civilian. So everyone's in uniform, and then there's me, jeans and a T-shirt, right?
What are you on, like a military?
Yeah, yeah. So we got off the plane, and this is a whole new world, right? We got off the plane. We were in Qatar because you transfer from there into Iraq. And so when we got off the plane, there were these military guys like on the tarmac, like screaming at everyone as they're getting off the plane, like, all right, amnesty box, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, what's an amnesty box? You know, if you got porn, if you got this, like put it in the box because we're going to search you. And I was like, and so everyone was just lining up in these formations. And I was like, where do I go? What do I do? Like, I don't know what to do. So I'm kind of standing there just trying not to look stupid. And they're like, all right, we're going to search you. And so they put everyone in these lines, and you're marching in these 2 lines into this tent where they're going to like go through all your stuff. And I was like, this is a different world. They don't do this in airports at home.
Yeah.
So I think that was like my first welcome, like this shock of like the rules are out the window. This is a totally different ball game than what you're used to.
And when you say like you're the only civilian on there, I mean, you're technically not a civilian. You're just not in the military, so to speak, right? But
yeah.
You're coming there to support the military, so you're
Yes.
a part of the mission.
Yes. I was a DoD civilian, so I had a CAT card. I was on military orders. I fell under General Order number 1, whatever it's called. You know, like no drinking, no. Basically, you're straight edge, right?
Yeah.
So I fell under all of those. But still, like, I'm not in a uniform and I don't know all their stuff.
Got it. Okay. So whoever you were going to be reporting to wasn't coming with you. I guess you were meeting them there?
Yeah. You show up at your office.
All right. So once you cross the border from Qatar, by the way, is it Qatar or is it Qatar?
I say Qatar.
Yeah, I say Qatar too.
I think there was some like journalist many years ago that said gutter. Okay. It was gutter, right? They said gutter. And then it just took off, and everyone said that.
Okay, all right. We're gonna say Qatar now. So you crossed from Qatar into Iraq. Did you go straight into Mosul at that point?
Nope. Flew into Baghdad.
Okay.
Had to go down Route Irish, where everyone was getting blown up.
Yep.
So again, like welcome to Iraq. You're just like, oh God, I can't just like show up and then get blown up right away. Like
Were you
I gotta
scared?
do something. Yeah, absolutely. And then we had a house there, like a headquarters for DIA. Stayed there for a few days, and then they got me a flight. They called a rotator up to Mosul. And going from Baghdad, which is a big city, to Mosul, which is a big city, but it looks like a dust bowl. Like it's not a big city like people think, was terrifying. And then in the beginning, I joked about discount intelligence agency, but this is where it all really formulated for me, is that the CIA was there, right? DIA was there. We were both running operations. But CIA had really strong guys, former Navy SEALs, they're ground branch guys. They'd go out in their up-armored G-Wagons, and they'd bring back the source, and the case officer would debrief on base.
Yeah, you're talking about the GRS guys.
Yeah, the GRS guys,
okay.
yeah. I was given cars and trucks that were taken from raids. Like special forces would like raid, they'd get like this beat-up truck, and then we would get it somehow. So bad that one of the trucks, I was actually in Kurdistan, one of the trucks, the front axle fell out of the car. We were driving, and then and everyone thought we got hit. We thought we got hit by an ID, and it was like, are you okay? Are you okay? Everyone, like body parts, everyone good? Everyone good? Yeah. And we got out, because it was Kurdistan, so it was safe. We got out, and the whole front axle was like laying on the ground. Yeah. So like that's the stuff we worked with. We weren't given radios. We had to use local cell phones that did not work. We weren't given the things that CIA was given to operate in this environment.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I have a lot of theories. But, budgets.
Let's fire away. Come on.
Just budgets. I don't know. I don't know if DIA has ever really been taken as seriously as CIA. And so money doesn't get funneled there. Or the money that got funneled there, whoever was in charge, put it in the wrong place. Because we had operators in the field who had nothing. We had nothing. And I did Mosul twice. So the second time I went back, at least I knew that. So it wasn't a shock. And I was able to basically form relationships with military units. There was a helicopter unit. So the second tour, I saw that we got hemmed up. We had trouble at checkpoints a lot in Mosul because we were running our own surveillance detection routes. We were picking up people and then we were bringing them back to base. Me as mission commander, right? It's my mission. But we had a lot of problems. And so like my second tour, I went and befriended somebody who ran the helicopter, the unit that was there with air support. And I basically said, look, this is who I am. Obviously not Shawnee, but whatever my alias was. This is who I am. This is our mission. We're here to keep you safe, but we have nothing. Is there any way you could support us so that we can support you?
What was your cover?
In a war zone?
Yeah.
Didn't really have one. I mean, everyone
You just
knows.
had a fake name and that's it.
Yeah.
But if they said, where do you work? Oh, State Department?
No, I never said State Department. It was DIA or DOD. Everyone knew. Like when you're in a military base in a war zone and everyone's in a uniform except for like a few people in jeans and a t-shirt, you're like, spies.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we go back for 1 second
Yes.
though? Because I want to stay on this because this is like the trial by fire in the first one. Even though you're not full-fledged allowed to go do everything, like you're on there for 6 months and you're at least, this is your first experience where you're told and for certain people you're allowed to go make a source and stuff.
Yeah.
So how, I mean, you talked about it earlier with the fact that it actually played to your advantage that you were a fair-skinned American girl, right? But you didn't know that until you actually did it. So when you got on the ground, first of all, did your commander say, hey, did they identify like a clear problem and say, this is what we want intel on and here's the places we want you to go? Maybe here's some targets we already have for you. How did it come together?
A little bit of everything. So, for example, if there are a lot of IEDs, that's going to be primary mission. Like we need to get these weapons cache, all these locations where the weapons are, and we need to destroy them. We need to arrest the people. We need to kill the people, whatever we need to do. So that would be priority. But there's also intelligence requirements. So requirements come down through the IC, the intelligence community, right? Saying, hey, there's elections coming up in Iraq. We want to know, what does this party think? And what does this person think? What are the right? So depending on the sources that you have or the recruited assets that you have, maybe someone could answer some of those. So you might pivot that relationship to start moving in that direction. Yeah. War zones finding sources, leads, much more difficult. Than it is in the real world.
I can imagine.
I can't pull up LinkedIn and be like, who wants to spy for me today? So we had a lot of walk-ins. So I formed a really good relationship with one of the CI, counterintelligence agents that was on that base. And when I told him our mission. And so when he got a good walk-in, he would pass them to me so that maybe we would have a new lead.
What made people walk in? What were the key things?
Money. Mm-hmm. Number one. Motivations for everyone is different when you're talking about espionage, and it can change. Your motivations can change from one day to the next. So financial motivations was primary, followed by ideological or political, right? They didn't like what was happening to their country. They didn't like the politicians. They didn't like the terrorists beheading everyone in their city, things like that. So fear also, they're motivated by fear. They want to fix it. It's sad when you're driving on and off base and there are these little kids running around and you're like, all these kids know is war.
Yep.
That's crazy to me. My kids don't know war at all.
So sad.
And that's their whole life, So that's kind of how we do it. And then also like relationships with other units. Sometimes they would know someone who knew somebody who wanted to talk and things like that.
Because they're going off base and obviously, yeah, absolutely. Did you... you're also, I'm just thinking of the timeline, you're getting there within a year since al-Zarqawi was killed, who was essentially the founder of what became ISIS. Yep. But we're in that period now where I want to say al-Baghdadi got out of prison a couple years later, but either way, we're in that 2007 to 2013, 14 year period where that insurgency is starting to organize into ISIS itself. Did you guys... Obviously, you didn't have the name ISIS on it yet, but did you see like, oh shit, all right, we got Zarqawi, but this is going to get way worse. Yeah,
there was a lot of intel coming in about the formation of the groups. I think part of it was, I'm going to sound like a dick for saying this, but part of it is a lot of people, when they get the intel, like, you're my source. You're telling me stuff. I don't change it. I write what you say.
Yeah.
I'm assessing if you're suitable and all those things. I write it up and then I pass it to the analysts. And a lot of times I feel like analysts would be like very dismissive, like, no, it's impossible. They couldn't do it. We're here. We're there. Like, we're in the country. How could they organize this? You know,
Oof.
I just feel like there was a lot of dismissing in a lot of cases.
You think that's because they're just sitting at a desk? It's
Probably.
easy from
Probably.
behind there?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So you were, bottom line is though, a lot of what you were developing during this time, those 6 months, was people were walking in and you had relationships on base so that it would get passed to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would start to put this together, make note files, get it to those analysts, and try to develop leads from that to help the primary goal being the safety of U.S. soldiers.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. So your 6-month period ends. You get sent back to America. What are you doing in America now?
I bought a Mercedes.
Oh, you bought a Mercedes. A good one this time?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, when you think you're going to die, your priorities change a little bit. I was single, no kids. I was like, I'm buying myself a Mercedes.
Good for you.
Yeah, yeah. So I went back and worked on a desk. I think I went back to the Iraq task force until my next deployment. Well, then I went to the farm and then deployed again right after that.
Oh, that's right. You went to the farm. By the way, though, real quick, the desk for DIA, I think you said this earlier, is that literally in D.C. or is it in one of the towns outside?
In D.C.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so you go to the farm in 08.
Yep.
Now, it's just crazy to me. They sent you to Mosul for 6 months, and then afterwards,
I know.
you can go to the farm now.
You can do it.
Yeah. So in Mosul, did you carry a gun around?
Oh, yeah. I did not go anywhere without a gun.
All right, so you're already a good shot at that point.
Yeah.
But what are you doing at the farm?
So, I mean, you've had a lot of people on, I'm sure, talking about it. But you're learning tradecraft, right? You're learning how to recruit assets. You're learning how to keep them safe, how to teach them tradecraft, comms, stuff like that.
So, any key highlight memories from that?
That I can talk about?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I was very proud of myself. I'll tell you something I was very proud of. First of all, my class was the largest class, like, in the history of the farm. They had surged, and there were a lot of people. I felt very, very smart because in the very beginning, I'll talk to anyone. I love talking to people, probably why I was good at my job. But at the very entrance, there's a gate, and I befriended the gate guards. And so later on in the course, when they started really screwing with us, the gate guards would be like, hey, you might want to hide your stuff, or you might want to, they'd give me tips. And I was like, oh, that was so smart of me.
Yeah.
I didn't do it on purpose. But I was the only nerd. So when you are going through the course, you can go back to DC. You can go home for weekends. You can do stuff like that. I was the only nerd. I stayed every weekend and worked and cased and learned and studied because that's all I ever wanted to do. And failure was not an option at all.
Well, clearly.
Yeah.
And like you got that in you. But like when so people are leaving for the weekends and stuff, it's not like, I guess there's no class going on during that. Are you like in the library just studying? No, I would be casing, a lot of casing in the area. What do you mean casing?
So area familiarization, driving around, kind of like criminals do if they're going to hit, they're going to rob somebody's house or something.
You just case in McLean, Virginia?
Well, it wasn't in McLean, but we're driving around, we're learning the roads, we're learning the areas, it's area familiarization. I want to know when the stores are open and closed, what stores open late, because you might need to do a quick stop, things like that. So I just drove, and you're drawing maps of places and like, okay, you entered this way and you exit this way. Like people don't think of espionage as like very admin, but it's very admin heavy.
Yeah.
Very admin heavy.
Yeah, I've had people talk about how it's like, God, some people have worded it this way better than I remember it. But essentially they're like, great spying is boredom, firework.
Yeah.
Like, and you're all that boredom time, the job is to not fall asleep.
Yes.
Because when you get to that firework, it's like, whoa, baby, here we are.
And then after that, paperwork.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah, the note. I mean, how does that even work, though, too? Because when you're doing like a post-case report, or what do they call it?
What, the intel?
Yeah. Like
so there's reports you write with the intelligence, but there's reports you write saying like, Julian was very nice. He took a nap, and you're writing up about that person.
Right, but is it like, you know how when you look at the legal system, like everything has to be written like a specific way? Is it they have their own system like that too? Or are you more or less just like dumping all the information you have in as organized way possible, however you want to do it?
So it's supposed to be like there's a format. There's a way you do it. I like telling stories, if you can't tell.
Yeah.
And so I tended to get beat up a little bit because I put too much detail in, I was told. So for example, in one of my reports, I met with a female, I can't say where, but during the meeting, like she had a ton of jewelry on, like very like Gladys Got Rocks kind of thing. My grandpa used to call my grandma that. And she had like this chaise lounge, and the whole meeting she was like laying, I'll move this. She was like laying on her side with her feet out, like a princess.
Like Rose in the Titanic.
Yes,
clothes
exactly.
On. Yeah.
Thank God her clothes were on.
Right.
But I wrote up in the report because for me, it really described her personality, right? If I get hit by a bus, I always looked at like if I get hit by a bus and someone's going to come in and take this case, I want them to know all the nuances about this person, all the buttons to push, their motivations, their vulnerabilities, right? And so I wrote up, like I said, she acted like she was the Queen of Sheba, right? With all the jewelry and lounging in the thing, and like her demeanor was very regal, which I thought was important. And people gave me so much shit for it. They were like, that's not relevant. So my reports were probably a little long.
Yeah, but still, I agree with your mindset there. Like you have to think like that. If I were dead tomorrow,
right,
and I'm the intelligence asset, right? Like you can't download my brain, so. To me, intelligence would be, it's not necessarily this, and this does not apply to a lot of things in life, but with this, less is not more.
Right.
When it comes to actually
information.
Yeah.
Yeah. You would think. And I've had, and I think I started doing that because I had cases where I took over a case and the folder's empty. It's like, I know nothing about this person. What do they like? Do they like food? How do I give them food for a meeting? I don't know what they're allergic to. I don't know,
Yep.
Do they have kids? Can I talk to them about kids? And so after having like multiple bad turnovers like that, I was like, I would never do that to someone. So I'm just going to put extra in.
Yeah, good for you. How long were you at the farm?
It's about 6 months.
Okay, and you said it was the biggest class of all time, but it was both CIA and DIA. Was
Correct.
there anyone else from any other agencies there?
Yes.
Are you allowed to say?
Probably not.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you don't have to say. So, and you can't say like how big the class was, I assume. Right?
Very big.
But it was big.
And a lot of people didn't make it either.
Yeah. How did people what kinds of things would people get cut for?
I heard stories like there are people that got cut for integrity, like getting caught in lies. That's a big one for them. Just sucking in general at certain things, like be it building rapport or map tracking or surveillance detection. You can't be bad at really any of those because everything is really so integral to everything else.
Okay. You weren't there when Snowden was there?
No.
Okay. He went to the farm, pretty sure. Do you have an opinion on him?
Yes.
Feel free to share it.
I think what he did was wrong. I think there are different ways that you could have gone about that, and it hurt a lot of people. I think anybody that reveals secrets like that, I don't care who you are, what your motivation is, there's always another way to do it. And leaking things to WikiLeaks is not the way to do it.
So it's a complicated one for me because I've heard both arguments in here. And there's a lot I like about Ed Snowden. I also look at it like that's the ultimate stuck between a shit and a fart because he had a slippery slope, in my opinion, on both sides. And I struggle with this all the time and I kind of go back and forth on it. But it's like on the one hand, it's like you're what are you supposed to do? Go up the chain of command, right? And then get it to a place where, there can be some sort of organizational agreement on we need to change things or go to internal affairs and figure out what we're doing here. He did try to do that a bunch and they told him to fuck off because they wanted to keep doing this shit. So on the one slippery slope, you have the Constitution and it's going like this. On the other slippery slope, and I understand this perspective, and this is probably where you're coming from, but don't let me put words in your mouth. On the other slippery slope, you have the Now someone has broken the chain of command of intelligence to reveal things that they signed in their life that they're not going to reveal, which could put assets of ours in danger in doing that. Also a slippery slope, because you can then have someone like Edward Snowden. Let's say it's something extremely serious, which I think his situation was extremely serious.
Yeah.
What he leaked there. The next person could be just a little less serious. Be like, yeah, but you let Snowden do it, and then you keep going down and down and down, and eventually, someone's leaking basic information that really doesn't matter, and they're fucking over a lot of people. So I get that, but at the same time, as someone who, loved the intelligence world that you worked in, and obviously saw a lot of the great work that happens around the world. I'm not one of these people that let's rein in all the agents. Right. Listen, it's got to exist. It's a shitty world out there. There's stuff that happens. But I am one of the people that says, wait a minute, you're not supposed to be spying on American citizens and shit like that. And a guy like Ed Snowden at least gave us that information. Like, bro, they were looking at all of you. They could have all your information. How do you face that as someone who's from that community? I think,
I hate to say it, but the intelligence community, the government as a whole, can do better. When I was there were a lot of situations I was in that were very bad. I mean, if Me Too existed back then, I'd have about 10 lawsuits, right? If I were litigious. There were a lot of wrongs that I saw done. I had to turn in my best friend at the time for doing a lot of really wrong things.
Really?
And there was no confidential reporting. There was retaliation was rampant. It was career destroying. But it's choosing, like you're saying, like something is wrong and I need to do the right thing, integrity, versus I'm turning my friend in for a lot of really bad stuff. Right?
Yeah.
Why I'm saying that is because there were a lot of different processes and a lot of things that they could have done to support both of us, and they didn't, right? Regardless of who you are, what the situation is, the government needs to do better. I mean, we could get into talk about Havana syndrome and what they're doing for the people that are hit by Havana syndrome.
Yeah, what's going on there?
Oh, my God, don't even get me started.
Let's get started. That's what you're here for.
Yeah. I actually just lost one of my closest, oldest friends. She was hit in Vienna with Havana syndrome. About a year later, developed some stage 4 mystery, weird cancer out of the blue. Fluke that they caught it. And she just passed away about 2 months ago. Yeah. So, but the government needs to do better. With her, for example, her name was Zoe. With her, she's this amazing human who, she was class 11. She joined the CIA, September 11th.
Oh, wow.
She was class 11. She worked for 21 years all around the world, working on some incredible operations, was quiet. Nobody knew she existed, never got married, never had kids, sacrificed everything for her country, right? And then she gets hit with this while she's in Vienna. She's stationed in Vienna. And the support that she received was not as good as it should have been.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's a campaign right now to put a star on the wall for her at CIA headquarters because we, and Jim Lawler's one of them, we believe that without this Havana syndrome, whatever this, RF or microwave radiation energy weapon or whatever was used on her, we believe that contributed to her demise. And we think that she needs to be honored on that wall. Because if she wasn't in Vienna, if she wasn't doing her job, that wouldn't have happened to her.
Where do you think this stuff is coming from? Because, and also, this is such a strange conversation. Like, to me, when I first read about it, I'm like, unfortunately, I'm like, makes sense. Like these are the kinds of things people are working on. Yeah. But there's literally this whole thing where people are like, oh, it doesn't exist or whatever. It seems to me like it exists.
It exists. It exists.
So where's it coming from?
I don't know. I'm clearly a nation state, right? This is not fake. I know the news has come out and said Russia. Surprising? Not at all. Are they in collusion with anyone else? I don't know. But the fact that there are hundreds and hundreds of people, including family members, who have gotten zapped with this, we need to do better. I mean, it was in front of the White House. Like, it happened in front of the White House. Yeah.
When? Really?
Yeah.
I didn't hear about that one.
A couple years ago. This is very, very real. And when Zoe came back, I remember her talking about, like when it happened, and she described like her bedroom, like there was a wall, like windows in front of her bed. Her bed was facing the windows, and she said she was getting ready for bed. And you know when you're like, you just get in that comfy position, and you're like, that's it. You're going to fall asleep in that position. She said she'd just gotten like in the position. And she said, you know, when you go through a train or in a tunnel or something and you hear this,
Yep.
like your head, she said she felt that, heard that, and then had this excruciating pain in her brain. And she grabbed her phone was on the nightstand. She grabbed her phone. She said she screamed and ran out of the bedroom. And she said as soon as she left that bedroom, it stopped, right? They can only get you with the windows or whatever the parameters are. So as soon as she got off the X, so to speak, it was over with. But when she came back, they were doing all these crazy brain scans and all this stuff. And she had like blindness in one eye. Like she had like lasting issues that did not exist before this happened.
So, but when she left the room and it stopped, like that sound and that feeling stopped.
Everything stopped.
But then when she like came to.
She was jacked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right
This
away.
stuff is very real. Yeah.
It's scary because it's like, okay, right now it's something where the X is focused on one, you know, they can get into one room or something,
Exactly.
but how close are we to where, you know, you just put off a pipe bomb?
But think about all of the people that work for the State Department or the CIA or the DIA or what have you, and they're bringing their families overseas just to do their job, right? And these people, their little kids are getting hit. Those kids didn't do anything. Like stuff like that, that's what makes me mad. Like we can do better.
And they're not, and as you said, and I've heard this story, I think even, I hope I get this right because it's been a while, but I think even Mark Polymeropoulos, who has it, who, you know, loved working at CIA and loves the agency and all that, like I believe he even has a huge issue with the lack of support that he's gotten because that ended his career.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very true. He knew Zoe too. Yeah.
See, that's something there smells.
No, absolutely. But I just get really angry because I know what I gave up, right? And I left so that I could have kids. I left so I could build my own little family, especially as a woman. And it's different. Men and women in this field, it's very, very different. What you put up with, what you deal with, all of that. And so for people like Zoe to give up your whole life and dedicate your whole life to your country, to your government, and then to just be dropped, right, and told like it's in your head, it's not real. Like that's what makes me mad.
That's not. You also have like all these different people from all different ends of the intelligence spectrum who are getting hit with it and reporting it, and you know these aren't. No disrespect, these aren't people who like slipped and fell on a crack and are like trying to sue someone for $1 million with the fucking accident attorney. You know, it's not.
It's not hot coffee in the lap.
Right.
Yeah, this is real.
Yeah, they're getting really fucked up by it. I'm really sorry you lost your friend.
Thank you.
That sucks. God damn.
You gotta look. This just came
out.
out.
Wait, do we have some up on the screen?
Yeah, this just came out literally today.
New report reveals Havana syndrome case numbers. More than 300 Americans treat. Oh, can we click that Miami Herald?
Yeah.
Let's try that. All right, go down. Fuck, this always happens. Go back.
Oh, that came out yesterday.
Yeah, let's see.
This one's 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, let's do this one.
How funny.
What was that headline? Let's see. Report reveals 300 plus people, including children, affected by mysterious Havana syndrome. Now let's go down. Sorry. All right, a new report to Congress revealed that more than 300 people, including children, are facing an invisible enemy once known as Havana syndrome. Who the fuck changed
Now I
the
think
name?
they're calling it something else.
Oh, God.
I think it's like AHI.
Oh, God.
Anomalous health issues.
What are we like what's
anomalous health incidents.
What's the Havanophobia or something? They're probably going to make that up. All right. The report issued by the Government Accountability Office said 334 U.S. government employees and family members, including 15 children, suffer from anomalous health incidents, or AHI, often categorized by severe headaches, blurred vision, and vertigo. The exact source of the ailments is unknown. In 2016, Department of State staff at the U.S. Embassy in Havana, Cuba, began experiencing a sudden onset of symptoms, usually following a loud sound. One of the affected, Kate husband, who served as a State Department consular officer in Havana until her diagnosis led her to retire on medical disability, spoke exclusively to NBC News in 2021. Quote, "It was persistent, the same level all the time. Very, very loud. It's nothing you could sit with," she said. On our right was another embassy family, and then the people on our left and across the streets from us were both Canadian embassy employees, and in the end, all 4 households were diagnosed. She has been diagnosed with, quote, "acquired brain injury related to a directional phenomenon exposure," unquote. Although it was dubbed Havana syndrome, cases have been reported around the globe. According to a new report, Americans affected by the mysterious symptoms may struggle to get care, but laws do require the Department of Defense to treat those diagnosed with the poorly understood condition. Those affected often face challenges getting care at home. The report details they are unsure who to contact, have limited benefit information, and experience difficulty scheduling appointments, and say they lack communication from the Department of Defense. Wow, that's fresh off the press.
But notice how they're starting to even change the name, right? Instead of UFO, now it's UAP or whatever.
Yeah, why do we do this?
I don't know.
Why do we make it more complicated?
But I think what's frustrating for those of us who knew Zoe, especially, is that I recently found out that the CIA is paying people who were hit with this. So you're getting payments, like a benefit, but they're still not acknowledging that, that it's real or that it is what it is. They're not coming out with information. So that's what's frustrating.
Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.